Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder of Streamlined Properties and the team leader of Streamlined Properties on Market, brokered by eXp Realty. Whether you are looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Welcome back for another week of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. As you know, we're on this new schedule 2 times a week, Monday and Thursday, not Wednesday anymore because we doubled up thanks to you. This week, my guest is Franco Perez of Franco.tv. We're going to talk all about how he is changing the face of affordable housing via mobile homes. Let's go. This is episode 59 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Franco Perez. Franco is the owner and founder of Franco Mobile Homes. He is a YouTuber, manufactured home developer, and he is in the business of breaking stigma and stereotypes around mobile homes. Franco, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to get into your backstory because you getting into mobile homes comes from a place that started in your childhood, correct?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, well, tell me a little bit about how you got to the journey, and then we'll kind of back into the real estate portion.
Totally. So my family moved here from the Philippines, got here when I was about 10 or so, and had this weird situation where my parents split when I was about 17, 18 years old, and my dad was the main breadwinner. So it was very difficult for my single mom to be able to keep up with finances. It was me, my mom, my younger sister. So I ended up leaving school just to work. And all of our money, even with the two of us, was all going at the end of the month towards rent. And I remember the anxiety and the pain at the end of every single month at how difficult it was to just keep up and live paycheck to paycheck. And I was like, why is it that we're good people? Why is it that this is happening to us and that sort of thing? And later down the line, I became a real estate agent. I did pretty well or average in that space. And then I ended up disliking being a real estate agent because I felt like I was only helping the wealthiest people I knew get the most expensive homes that they could. And it wasn't fulfilling for me. I hated turning away people saying, hey, you don't make enough money or you don't have enough as a down payment. And that hurt me so much. And I wanted to find a way that would help people that were in my shoes back then be able to get out of that rat race and to be able to start their home ownership journey, and stumbled across mobile homes and helped people get out of renting into home ownership that way. And now we're building and converting old mobile homes to new ones. And that's pretty much my story.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing. And one thing that I know you talk about a lot is the stigma of mobile homes. Like, it's definitely changing because we've seen so much of like these kind of tiny homes and renovations where people are like, that's a mobile home, and it is. But did you feel that though when you were younger, when you're looking around and you're seeing that? Were you thinking from a personal point of view? And when did that transition to looking at mobile homes as real estate opportunity for maybe, like you said, the people who couldn't get into where you were? You're in Northern California, right?
yes, I am. Yeah. And then we're also in Southern California too. But yes, I mean, to that question, I also, I came across mobile homes by accident and realization. I also had these stigmas. And if we think about it, we only have a perception about mobile homes and mobile home parks from Hollywood, from the media, from Breaking Bad or Eminem, and that sort of thing. And every time on TV, it portrays it as the lowest of low, of dangerous places for criminals or bad quality homes and bad quality neighborhoods. But that's far from the truth. It's kind of like in apartments where there's apartment buildings that you wouldn't want your kids playing around, but there's also luxury apartments that are beautiful and resort-like. And there's the same spectrum with mobile homes. You have, yes, there might be some bad parks out there, but it's not all of the communities out there. There's so many beautiful communities. We have, in our area, we have mobile home parks right across the street from the main Google campus. We have it across from the Samsung buildings. We have it next to really nice schools and nice neighborhoods. And, when we're in an expensive area, location is so important. And why is it we don't realize that these are in prime locations? And why is it we're not optimizing these locations to be a place for people to be able to live? Yeah, I had those stigmas myself too. But I think because we don't have a reason to go to these parks and we don't get to witness it, we don't realize how nice this could be and how pretty it could be.
Yeah, especially for non-investors. Obviously, investors have caught wind of it over the last several years and really for a long time, but now it's becoming more of a project that can be upgraded, whereas it used to be kind of buying and looking at the numbers. But yeah, I feel like it's also a community thing because mobile home parks, the way they're built, they're usually grouped together. You're not just going to have like a one-off mobile home. And that means like there's a different, subset of like amenities compared to, a giant apartment building. There's that community amenity of people all being in an area where they're going to have things that are shared. And that takes some management. Was that something when you started to get into that you had to figure out as well? Because it's not really as many one-offs, right? There are a lot that are going to be built near each other just because that makes sense with the land options that you said that you talked about.
Correct. So each project or client or situation is always going to be a case by case, right? So there's pros and cons to what you said. One is like for the tenants themselves, they don't have to share walls with the neighbors. They have better parking structure and they actually have a sense of ownership, right? And I think that's one of the big pros too, is that because these people that are in these communities, they own these homes. And in return, they're going to make sure they pay their space rent on time. And they're going to also take care of the home itself as well, right? If you're the landlord or whatever of an apartment, you have to take care of the shower or broken toilet, any issues of that. Whereas in the park, you don't. You have a shared element of ownership. You have a shared risk as well. But yeah, there is a sense of community. What I find because of that ownership element, these people really care about their homes and they care about their neighbors and they watch out for each other. And it's really interesting. It's a nice lifestyle that these people have because they host events and Christmas events to get to know each other. Whereas in apartment buildings, it's not as common, actually, I find.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends what element you're talking about. If it's coming from an investor level, it's different. And then from the lifestyle of people living in there, it's different as well.
Yeah. I mean, your focus is really to create affordable housing, right? Which is, again, it's a different type of investment. It's an investment that provides a little bit more back than maybe, nothing against people who are buying large scale mobile homes and just doing them as a business. But you have definitely a why that dates back that helps you create more community into this. Now, what's the driving force and how much are you able to do to increase it when we all know that it's like, there's a housing shortage right now? And what are you doing that's helping to combat that? Because I know you are.
Yeah, so there's a lot to what you said there. And the first part of it, yes, I think, what I love is for myself, and I want to express this to others, is that for me, once it's so much more fulfilling sometimes. I feel like in real estate or in entrepreneurship, we're always chasing these dollars and cents. And it's like, oh, I want to make X amount a month just so this and that. But I feel like there's a good amount of people where, the impact element is the best fulfillment and the best compensation for me, at least. Like I still teared up today when I helped one family be able to own their first piece of ownership when they felt like ownership was impossible. And I feel like there's a good set of people that, if they knew the impact they were creating, they'd be able to do more. That's one element. And then the other is kind of the other part of what you said was what we're doing now is, yes, there's a lot of conversation about this housing shortage and how cost of building homes is getting more and more difficult. And guess what? It's only going to get worse. All of our labor are at the age that they want to retire. We're not getting enough young people that want to work with a hammer and get excited to be a construction worker. So, and also materials are getting more expensive. So what's going to happen then? I relay this same thing when it comes to cars. Cars were only built for the rich and wealthy back then. And then it was only until it was built in a factory, in an assembly line, that we were able to drop the cost of production to allow everyone to own a car. And that same element is what's happening right now in the mobile homes, in the factory buildings, in these manufactured homes. We are building high quality homes through these factories on an assembly line, making it more efficient, more cost effective, and even better for the environment as well. And with all of that, this is how we're going to get to keeping the cost of building more housing at a lower cost, which will then keep it more attainable for middle class people to start their ownership journey. So there's a lot of elements of why there's this huge wealth gap. And it is my objective to try to keep that wealth gap small so that more people can, have that social mobility of being able to get out of that rat race that I was in as well.
Yeah. Well, how did you get started with your first one? Like, what was the first time where you built one, figured out what to do with it? How did that get started? Tell us about number one.
Yeah, it was tough. So I guess just like we were talking about these stigmas, I didn't have funds to do a prototype project or do my first project. And man, when I ask my investors I want to do something in a mobile home park, they're like, "Are you crazy?" I'm not going to put money into a mobile home park, and that sort of thing. And it came down to a point, like I talked to so many different people just to try to raise funds for this. And it came down to me telling one of these investors, I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to give you all the profit. You take it all. I just need you to help me make this a reality so that I can prove my point and have a use case so that it'll be easier for me later." And I convinced them to allow for me to do that on our first two projects, pretty much use, my as much funds as I could. We were obviously negative on them, but once people saw the homes that we could build in the location, and once they saw the demand of people putting multiple offers on these homes, then they're like, "Oh shoot, maybe this is something, right? Crap, this did work." And because of my scarcity of funds, I made sure that everything was documented, all the pictures that we have, all the numbers that we have, all the expenses, just to prove that it was real, because it's so important to these investors to know that. And from then, we worked on our next project, and now we're doing several at a time. And it's amazing to be able to do so.
So your first set of projects, were these just one mobile home, or were you buying a park and then retrofitting the whole park and figured out it? You started with, or were you just starting with like a home and then moving on from there? And then also tell me where you are now. Are you buying the actual whole parks, finishing all of them, or is it a one-off situation?
Yeah, so it was a one-off project. So it was actually a 600 square foot home. We retrofitted it for that lot. So we removed the 600 square foot home. We built a 1,600 square foot home that was 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and we made it as pretty as we could and as beautiful as we could. And we knew that this was kind of our one shot. So we built it really nice and that sort of thing. So now and recently, so like the last year and a half or so, we started helping with. We still today do a lot of one-off projects. So people that live in these communities and people that want to get a new home in these communities, that's a big bulk of our business. But now recently we're doing a lot of consulting for park owners. So these people that do own these parks, "Hey, I have a ton of, this is my park. What do you see as advice for this? How can we convert these old ones at scale to new ones to add the value of our mobile home park? And in return, have a better asset for the owner as well." So we're doing that. And then recently, I'll admit it's our first few, but I'm helping a few people start. Nobody's really been opening a brand new mobile home park. It's kind of hasn't been done in a long time, but I'm helping 2 people kind of with the logistics of that in certain areas. So that's kind of what we're doing now too.
Yeah, the middle part is really interesting. I see that as a huge value add from you to existing mobile park homeowners who don't really have a design sense or understand what to do. Because for people who don't know, they may own just the pad, or they may own the pad and the mobile home, and they could have 6 mobile homes just sitting, that someone trashed and they don't know what to do with. If you come in, help them figure out how to renovate those and turn them into something more modern, it can then upscale the entire development really quickly. Is that what they're seeing? I mean, with your help, you turn the dead units into great ones. now those other people may want to do them as well. And then that upgrades the value of the park as a whole for the owner of the whole park.
That's exactly it. I mean, you said my whole business, the whole right there.
I'm not hired. Yeah, I got a new job now. Yeah, no, but I
I mean,
love it. It's a great way that your skill set can help other investors maximize their own investment, but it's also a win for you because you're cross collaborating.
yeah. And on top of that, I know too that it's not what I love about this. It's the multiple win. It's not just a win for the park owner or me. It's also a win for
Owner.
society, and it's creating more affordable housing for everybody. Right. So like we always talk about, how like these teachers are living in these communities. And I just helped a teacher, or we did a podcast with a teacher, and he was like, hey, if I didn't own this mobile home, all of my coworkers are being pushed out of this area, but because I have this, I'm more financially secure and I can stay where I want to be.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the use case for a lot of the people that live in these communities. They need more opportunities to start their ownership journey. Whether they want to be really wealthy or not, they deserve financial security just as much as everyone does. Right. Unfortunately, when you're stuck in this rental rat race, it's always, you never really know what's going to happen. Right? All your money is going one way and you don't have anything you can sell to get back later down the line.
Yeah.
But that's why on our YouTube channel, we love educating this, because these are things that we aren't taught in school. These are things that I wish I knew when I was younger. And if I did know, I probably would have been able to help more and more people back then too. Right. So, but that's kind of our agenda now, is really bringing that education and helping anyone that's creating more stepping stones to get people out of that rat race.
Yeah, I mean, the benefits across the board are so huge. You just mentioned a few of them, but I can see the upgrade, of course, for the mobile home owner who lives there. That's a huge upgrade because they couldn't afford anything they were renting. They get in there, but then that upgrades the thought, like you said, the stigma against mobile home parks is changing. Do you think that the tiny home revolution kind of helped adjust with mobile homes as well? Because if you just talk about shipping containers, that's something where someone would say, why would that? Those are disgusting. I would never live in a shipping container. And now they're building shipping container homes, but very, very similar to the setup of a mobile home, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I do. To the first question, yes, I do think that movement can help bring attention to it. And then the second is, I think it's a whole different motion, because there's a few things that are concepts, and then also like hypothetical theories that don't always actually make sense. Like these tiny homes, it doesn't make sense in metro areas. And these container homes, like how do you get permitted or permission to get a container home in my yard, or that sort of thing, which are good. I love the innovation and that sort of thing. But one thing I love about mobile homes and mobile home parks is that it's already an existing model. You can convert these old ones to new ones, and we can do it at scale. It's approved. It's something that's already being done today, and we're able to build, and create more affordable square footage for people. Whereas and I admire these people that are doing the alternative with like these shipping container homes and that sort of thing, because unfortunately they're doing it, but they aren't able, they're having a lot of government blocking and that sort of thing. And it's tough for them to move forward. But with mobile homes, it's already a practical product. It's been around. These communities and infrastructure is already there. All we have to do is improve what's in these communities to convert it to another one.
On the permitting side, like if you're doing regular home flips, of course, which I do, everything's a pain. Everything falls apart. Is it any easier when you're renovating in a mobile home park because the land is owned by the actual mobile home community? Is it easier? Are there less hoops to jump through when you're doing it because you're going to be able to drop it on something that fits? Or is it similar to flipping?
Every state and municipality has its own different rules. But I would say that in most areas, it's typically a bit easier. It's usually easier because, especially in these mobile home parks, these government entities really regulate these permanent homes
Right.
and real estate, actual real estate. Even though we are building them to be permanent and never be mobile again, they are classified as mobile homes. So they're watching less because it's misunderstood, which is a pro for these builders, or a pro for these homeowners that want to convert, because it's less headache that they got to deal with. They're dealing with the mobile home governance of that state instead of dealing with the city a permitting department, which is usually, like you said, a headache. Like I got to say this is that from start to finish, we just beat our record recently. We finished a home conversion from an old one to a new one in 2.5 months. So from the start of replacing the old one to building out the new one, being able to build that in that amount of time is amazing. When we know that if we wanted to do a demo of a single family home to a new one, we're lucky if we can get done in 11 or 12 months, right? And by the ease of it, we're able to build faster, and we're able to, in the end, create more quality homes for everybody.
Hey, this is Jonathan. Thanks for listening to another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. On this brief interlude, I wanted to tell you that we have a mailing list. I actually don't love mailing lists. There's so much. This is not an automated mailing list where you get on a drip campaign. These are written once a month, will eventually be at once a week again by me, direct, and they're not spammy. So if you want to sign up for our mailing list, you can go to bit.ly/streamlined with a D mail. Bit.ly is bit.ly/streamlined mail. See you there. Are you finding that the younger generation is becoming more interested in these as they're now becoming like hipper? You know, you're able to create more designs. Do you think that's something for all the young people now who just like, look, forget it, especially out where you are? Like, I don't have $2.5 million to spend on 800 square feet. So what can I do that works? Do you think this could be a trend for younger people over time when in the past it hasn't really been a younger people's game?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And it's so exciting this year because we are starting to get a lot of younger generation people into wanting and what's interesting is they don't have these bad stigmas or that we do, or that older people do in associations of these bad stigmas. And the second element to that is, what is their alternative? I mean, you know, it's am I going to rent for the rest of my life, or am I going to buy a $1.7 million home in the city? I don't really have an alternative, right? And then that's where this really becomes that perfect market fit. And we're also building a lot of, one of our recent videos shows like how smart tech is involved in a lot of these homes. We're doing smart locks, the thermostats, cameras, all the lights are powered by Alexa. We have these packages and stuff like that really make it, something that's attractive for younger generations as well. And because you own the home itself, you can make these add-ons and make this lifestyle that you want in your specific mobile home that's yours. And the floor plans as well are being designed for younger generations that want a place that they can host and entertain, these giant great rooms with 12-foot high ceilings, kitchen, living room, and dining room all in the same area. You know, we are building these for the future, and especially with our YouTube channel, we see a lot of attention around it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I've been seeing so many of the people like building out vans to live in them, and this is like the next level up. You know, for people who want to be mobile and travel, they're going to renovate a van. They're like everywhere, on TikTok, and then like this becomes a great other option because, like you said, they're not really mobile. Like no one's really intending to move these ones, but they are classified as mobile homes, which makes things a little bit easier overall. I think that people who are looking to build those, 4 to 6 unit, like kind of little getaway home type of communities, they're going to have to keep that mobile thing there to just make it easier. It's going to make everything a lot easier.
Totally. And in the end, these people are making these sacrifices with having this van life or these small homes. The reason why this is like becoming a thought is because the cost of housing is becoming very expensive, and then if we understand cash flow better, if we understand how that works, then we start to realize where should we be putting our money. And like you said, it's a perfect middle ground to maybe not purchase and commit to a huge single family home, but it's still something more attainable. And it's like a hybrid model of ownership because you are paying a portion of your payment towards the mobile home park, but you own the asset that's above it. And all these false myths are incorrect. These mobile homes are actually appreciating quickly, and you're able to leverage a loan. You get tax benefits, and there's so many pros to it as well.
Yeah, and one thing I heard in one of your videos that I remember, because I've lived in both California and Florida, is like people do not realize the quality of land that some mobile home parks are on, especially in California, but Florida also, right on the water, beautiful views. I mean, these are the things that people want to get rid of them to build these giant McMansions there, but like they're locked down. There's unbelievable spaces everywhere that is geographically desirable. And I don't think anybody ever realized that.
They really are the hidden gem. And it's something, and it's really our goal to really show people and show the world how beautiful these communities are, how beautiful the homes are, and especially the stories, the success stories that we get from people that are able to live in these homes. Right? That's really what drives me is hearing, I was able to stay in this area, or I was able to build enough money to sell my mobile home to buy a single
Yeah.
family. Those are this is what I am passionate about.
Is your long-term plan at least thinking like you want to have like, Franco Mobile Homes as like the park? I mean, if you haven't already, I can just see that because I'm watching the videos. I'm like, I mean, these things look really cool. Like, is that what you're thinking long term? That like, here's, this is Francoville here. You got all the hip mobile homes all together. It just sounds cool to me.
That's now it is.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think my mission has always been like really just how do we make it easier for the middle class to be able to own these, and how do we create more affordable housing? But only, like I mentioned to you earlier, only recently is when we're starting to get involved with the opening of parks in these communities, because the building communities itself is another separate use case that's practical as well. Right. So we have many of these cities that are all of a sudden have a huge workforce, like this Tesla Gigafactory that I was asked to go to. They all of a sudden need a ton of homes. What's the fastest and most affordable way to build homes? It's through these factories. And, does it make sense for us to build a mobile home park so that we can quickly get homes for these people that are working here? And we're seeing it now in several different states like Texas, Montana, and Nevada that people are opening communities, and it's this innovative way of building is what's going to allow to create more opportunities for these people that are working hard, right? These people that didn't inherit wealth, the people that didn't inherit a home. We have to keep that opportunity alive.
What are the general costs like in your area, just so we can compare to like, generic regular housing? Like if somebody, like just in terms of like, what's a full renovation, just ballpark cost versus like a brand new, unit that's the modern version. What are the cost differential for that versus, because of course it's different across the country. Home prices are all different, but you're in California, prices are sky high for everything. What do mobile homes look like on the cost end?
So I'll talk about my area, which is San Jose, but for your listeners nationwide, these numbers are drastically different in different cities, but the ratios are typically about the same.
Yeah.
So in my area, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment rents for about $3,000 a month, and then you have single family homes that an average medium quality home is $1.6 million, which is really hard to attain. If you imagine, you'd have to come up with about $200K down, have a high $8,000 payment a month, and it's very difficult. Now, our mobile homes, on average, like a 5-year-old one would typically look like about $330,000, and then the newer ones really nice ones would be about $430,000, somewhere around there. But keep in mind, this is like a third or less of what a single family home is. And instead of putting this huge 6-digit down payment, all you got to do is put like $40,000 down or $35,000 down. And your overall expense monthly is only a little bit more than what you're paying for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, except you have 3 rooms, you have your own personal space, and you start that ownership journey. As far as the payment goes too, I think it's important for the listeners. Like usually, a third of your payment goes towards the space rent and 2/3 goes towards the mortgage. So on like a $330,000 home, you have $1,000 a month going to rent, and you have about $2,600 a month going towards the asset for the the mortgage for the home. And that's typically what the payment will look like, which is more it's easier attainable versus trying to get out of the rental rat race into real estate right away.
Yeah. And so you're saying like across the country, those prices would be the same percentage differential from whatever the median home price is generally.
Exactly. So like in Austin area, I was just doing consulting for a market there. Their median single family home price was $500K. The mobile homes themselves were about 130 in these communities. But, it's the same concept. The incomes are different. They're able to get out of that rental in that area. The overall numbers are going to be different, but the ratios are typically the same.
Yeah. And in terms of lending, I think there was misinformation out there that you could never get loans for mobile home parks. What's the loan products like? Is it similar the way that you're doing them, or has something changed where people are able to, put a little bit down and get a lot? Because I think I personally, that's what I had thought years ago, like, well, you got to pay cash for that because they're not that expensive.
There are better loans now than there was before. And, I'm always consistently working on I was just at DC and we were talking to getting more backed funding to help get more loan options. But typically you'll see instead of a 30-year loan, you'll see about a 25-year loan. You're still going to need about 10 to 20% down, but 10 to 20% of that purchase price is usually going to be way less than what you would have to put on a single.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that the stigma part is changing, but it takes people like you to get the word out there. You put out a lot of content on YouTube. Do you get a lot of good feedback just from people saying, what we're talking about? Like, oh, that's a mobile home, like shocked that these can look the way that you're turning them out.
Oh, totally. I mean, if you can imagine, like, I've been trying to tell people about these forever, and, they have to see it to believe it. And that's why we do a lot of YouTube stuff, because even when they see it through the video, they still don't believe it, and we don't have an excuse to go out to these communities. But yes, we've been getting a lot, if you're listening, I urge you to kind of take a look we have 3D tours on our stuff, and we have videos that really showcase how beautiful the quality is. We even have tours of the factory and how it's built there. With that, it's a lot has changed, and it's so much. I'd even say the quality is better than a lot of stick-built homes are being built today. But yeah, and we work to keep improving that quality, keep improving the cost effectiveness and how good it is for the.
Yeah. When you were younger, when do you remember thinking like real estate brain? You know what I mean? You're going through it. What was the time where you said like, wait, I think I want to do this? There was like usually a moment where you realize, I know we talked a little bit about it, but as a kid, you're looking and like, whatever, there's a house, there's a different type of house. But when did you decide like, I want to do this. I want to be in real estate, whatever kind for my life, and help people that way.
What's really funny is I've always wanted to become a videographer and a graphic designer. That's what I was pursuing harshly. And I was doing graphic design for a real estate company in Terrell, actually, which is a Berkshire company. And it was that time when my parents split and whatever. And I was like, hey, I was doing the flyers, I was doing the websites, I was doing like business cards, whatever it was, pursuing that. And that's when I was like, guys, I have a bad situation. I need a raise. I really need help. And they're like, we can't pay more for design or graphics, but we can teach you how to sell real estate. And that's when I went hard, door knocking, cold calling, morning to night. And because I didn't really have experience, and because it was such a survival mode, I didn't care about getting denied, getting door slammed in my face.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of built my real estate brain, should you say, right? And then after, I think when you come from a background like where I came from, after, you don't need a lot of money to feel secure. And ever since after that, I just wanted to be able to help people that were in my shoes. And that's when I really deep studied, why is this the way it is? And how can we help change the way it is?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it came about.
At some point in your journey, I know the book that you mentioned was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which it comes a lot of investors. But at what point did you read that book? And then how did you take it and put it into practice? Because so many people read it. A lot of people just put it down, let dust collect. But again, so many investors read it. And that's the book that just makes them take action because they see Rich Dad Poor Dad and you can balance them, see what you want to do with it. How did it affect you?
I think it affected me in the real, a switch lit off in my brain that realized that, what he made sense. It made so much sense because when I was poor, I didn't have any wealthy friends. I didn't have anyone to give me guidance, right? And it really is a whole information gap as well. I didn't know how important ownership was, how much of a change home ownership was. Whereas nowadays, I'm fortunate to have or to know a lot of people that are wealthy. For them, it's an obvious no-brainer of what assets are, how to build net worth, what should I focus on? And that for me was a big shift. I was like, wow, why is it that this isn't taught in schools? Why is it that this information is kind of kept secret? It's just been my focus is to educate through our stuff to help more people be able to grow out of that rat race. And yeah, that's how that book clicked with me.
Yeah. Are there any other types of investments that you're into, or are you just like this is it? You're going to be mobile homes, and that's all.
I mean, for me, I'm all about anything that's creating affordable housing. So we're doing a few projects in North Carolina too. They're typically ownership/rental options that we're testing out. But realistically, a lot of my focus is really all around mobile home parks and communities. We're also doing factory built developments.
Yeah.
Is like, these are technically on land and that sort of thing. So we help with that too, which I think is going to be a very big thing moving forward.
Yeah. Can you explain a little about how the actual mobile homes park in terms of how they work in terms of the ownership, the pads versus the actual units? And then when you come in, what are people doing with them? Can they take them off? I think that's what always people say. Are they going to move it? Because we were saying before how you're paying a certain portion. When are they fully owned? What can they do with them? And how does it work with the pad versus the actual units?
Yeah. So essentially these communities, they're in a fixed location in these metro areas. So how it works is a lot of people feel this as a pain point where you're paying rents and you'll never own the land, right? But I kind of help people understand that this is kind of like we understand townhomes or apartments, why they have an HOA and that sort of thing, right? And this is kind of that, but a bit more expensive of an HOA. You don't own the land, you don't pay property taxes on the land, you get benefits like the pool, the gym, that sort of thing. But you owning the home and the contract tied to the lease of that mobile home park, that asset above and the contract has an intrinsic value of being in that location. So if you're in San Jose and you own one of these mobile homes, obviously the alternative is very costly. So you have your value is being able to sell that to somebody else that might want it in the future. And then on the other hand, you don't typically want to move these because it is very costly to break them down and that sort of thing. But the pro is that they're classified as mobile homes and not as full real estate. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. So most people own the actual structure and rent the pad.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I think that things have changed a lot over the last years. Again, referencing tiny homes and mobile homes. Are you seeing that? I mean, now you've been doing this 11 years. Are you seeing just a big difference in how people look at it? As we talked about the stigma before. I mean, even like higher wealth individuals, are you seeing a different in the overall scale of what people think of in terms of mobile homes? Like we were saying before, like growing up, like they were called trailer parks, but you don't realize that they're different and the bad connotations really never end. But how is it now compared to how it was when you started 11 years ago?
It depends who we're talking to and where we're at. Like in California, people are very open-minded, I feel like, or in my area, people like can understand that because they need to. And then I was in Kentucky the other month or so, and they do have like these really bad stigmas. They're stuck in their ways. They don't really want to do anything that has to do with mobile homes.
Yeah.
But I think every city has its own different vibe and thought process around it. And that's why we kind of do a lot of advocacy government wise and showcase, I was just in DC kind of talking to several meetings with senators and that sort of thing to show, hey, we need to make sure that these lawmakers know that what mobile homes are, what they look like, how they're built, how it's helping society. And, it's up to us to really beautify that so that people aren't trying to either close it down or change it to something else. And that's really my objective, is to protect these because it's so important to a lot of these cities.
Yeah, if there's a new or a seasoned investor out there who's never kind of dealt with mobile home parks, what's one piece of advice based on your 11 years in the business that you would give them in terms of how they could get started the right way?
Oh, there's so much. What's interesting, I guess my first piece of advice is to try not to do it yourself. I've seen so many people try to purchase a mobile home park and don't really know a lot of nuances and things there's so much that you don't know. The utilities, how the sewage works, the ownership structure in the city municipalities. And if I were to give myself advice on that, I would partner with somebody first that's done it before, or have a consultant that would help me get into it versus jumping right in and buying a community, because that's kind of my way of saying that you're paying for your education by sharing with somebody that's done it before.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Franco is the best place for people to start with the content, not just your YouTube, but at franco.tv.
Yeah, all of our links are at that www.franco.tv, or you could Google us at Franco Mobile Homes. Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody's interested in partnering with you, is that a possibility? I mean, how are people coming to you in terms of the business there? You have your one-off clients who want to renovate. Now you have some consulting going on also. What if someone wants to partner with you on an actual project? Is that an option at this time?
Yeah, it is something we're doing. That is a service we're doing. We really aim to be that end-to-end everything around mobile homes, right? So at any level, how can we help and find opportunities to grow together, right? So I try to be as accessible, or our team as well works to be accessible in any capacity. If you're a resident having trouble with a home situation and needs advice, you can email or text our numbers on there. And then the same if you have a park that you want to build out, the same thing, right? So
yeah. Awesome. Well, the good news is you are our first mobile home episode, and I love it because it was like a different one. We're not talking about buying full mobile home parks as investments. We're talking about affordable housing, and like you said, and what I really love, the stepping stone to more traditional home ownership. But maybe over time, people are going to find this, in a more mobile culture, that this is something they're going to stick with longer. Do you think that that's an opportunity for people? Maybe they're not going to need the stepping stones as much. I mean, houses are just getting crazy expensive.
They are. It really is the way I see it, the last stand for affordable housing, and it's a must, right? And unfortunately, like, I look at this in other countries where we are that have faced the same issues, there's really is that wealth gap that I keep talking about. And there's either the rich that own homes or you don't. And that's the world that this is coming to. And, that's why I'm so passionate about this whole housing situation, because we have to keep this available for people that aren't originally able to afford single family homes. I mean, yes, there's families out there that get a big boost of income and they can go from renting to owning single family, but most people out there can't, so this just allows to ease, like I mentioned, a lot of people that were in my shoes before.
Awesome. Well, it was an absolute pleasure. Great getting to know you. Glad to get this story out for people, and hopefully people will go over, pick up a ton of your content on YouTube. There's a lot of it, so you got to go look at it. Pleasure having you on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, and I appreciate it as well.
All right. This was episode 59 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Franco Perez of Franco Mobile Homes. We'll see you next week. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with me, Jonathan Green. And I just want to remind you, and this is always an uncomfortable part, I don't want you to think that I'm begging for you to like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do for the podcast, leave a 5-star review. But if you like the podcast and you think it adds value in the real estate investing sphere, then just do me a personal favor. Like the podcast, follow it, share it when you can with your friends, and be so kind as to write a 5-star review if you believe it deserves a 5-star review up against what else is out there. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you keep listening.